Hello, this is Chris Sinkovich. Welcome to episode number 2 of the Sun Coaches West podcast. As always, today's topic is going to be directed towards high school football coaches, always trying to help them get better at their craft. And today's topic is ideas to make your program unique and fun. I think it's important that we have a lure to get the young men in our schools out to play this great game. So here's a couple things I want to talk to you about. If you have a program that has some uniqueness to it and a high level of commitment, then you want the word in the hallways of the school, the word of the peers, to be really strong about your program. And if that's a tool that helps get more people out, I think that's the ultimate tool, is the respect and praise of your players about what they're doing in your program. I would encourage you as a coach to take pride in setting a high bar and a high standard, but being able to get a high number of young men and kids to reach that level. There's an exclusivity involved, certainly, but I don't think that means that you can only have 30 guys on the varsity football team. There's a way and a method that you can set a high bar and a high standard, but get young people to strive for that. And I'm very confident, I don't care what generation it is, that young people take pride in having a high standard that they have to meet, having a high goal, and then being pushed and challenged to reach that goal. That drive has never gone away from young people, nor will it ever. And frankly, going out every day in your program and doing the same thing over and over, I don't think that's going to get it done. I think it's boring. And it's just not fun. Young people have a lot of choices. They can do all kinds of things. And if you're not going to offer anything unique and exhilarating, then you're probably not going to have a great turnout. I want to talk about a man who impacted my life. His name was Barry Gunderson. He was the principal at Las Vegas High School from 1995 to 2002. And that coincided with my time there, thank goodness. And he was such a tremendous and supporting principal of what we did extracurricular-wise. He was demanding of his teachers, and he was amongst the students always. He's not that type of principal that sat in his office all day. He genuinely loved being around kids, and he taught me a bunch of stuff. But the one I want to share with you is, and this is a talk that I'm actually giving at the Portland Clinic in March of 2025, and the thing that Barry always said that I never forgot was, in quotes, "I've never had a problem with the student I shared a meal with." And he shared that with me numerous times. He shared that with the faculty numerous times. And I always took it to heart. And it was a great way for us to get to know our players in kind of a different environment than the practice/weight room environment. So in our program at Las Vegas High School, these were times that we ate with the players. In season, Thursday afternoon, we would go to Putter's Restaurant, which was right by our high school, right after school, and we would have a pregame meal of spaghetti. And I'd let the kids sit and talk. We got to sit and talk as coaches, interact with the players. I'm fine with some of that noise level, the loud laughing and all that. But the interaction with their teammates away from campus and the coaches, I think it was awesome. I'll be honest, it was a highlight of my week, man. You've been working since Saturday for this game, and you still got work to do, but you can see the game the next night, and this is kind of take a breath and catch your breath and get ready to go. And I enjoyed the heck out of that. Also in season Saturday morning, we'd bring the players in for milk, donuts, and fruit before we would go to our big team room and study the game tape from last night and the previous night, if you would. I worked for a guy, and he said, I knew nothing about high school football, and he's like, we're coming in Saturday morning because I don't want the players thinking that they can be out doing things that they may not, should be doing on Friday night. So we'd be up, and we'd be in there at 8 o'clock, I believe was the time, and I was good with that. Preseason, before camp starts in the summertime, we would always have the seniors over to my house, to the head coach's house. And I lived in Las Vegas, so I had a pool. So we would have a barbecue, and and they'd swim, and generally, and I had a bunch of ex-Division I football players as coaches on my staff, and there'd be great water fight and wrestling matches in the water between the seniors and the coaches, which I still have video stored somewhere. That's a great memory, and we still talk about that when I get to reconnect with my coaches. So, and I know the players remember it too. So if you can do that or something like that, it's really cool. We had a state title team when I was a head coach. Yeah, two more when I left. That's probably why they had them. And we would bring that team to the head coach's house. It'd be cold, right? We'd do it after Christmas break. But we'd lit the fires outside and we cooked steaks for them because they won the first state title in 40-something years at Las Vegas High School. They deserve that. In the off season, I like guys playing another sport. I was never into that statement. Like, I know it pisses you guys off too. Yeah, I'm going to focus on football in the weight room in the off season. I'd be like, you know what? We'll get our training done during school. We have weight training, and we'll coach the hell out of it. I'd rather you go out and learn how to compete in another sport, know how to be a great competitor and a preparer. That to me was the stuff that mattered. So those guys that did elect to participate in the weight room in the wintertime because they weren't in wrestling or basketball, we kept roll, man. You always got to keep roll. It's got to be black and white, right? We talked about that last time. And when it got done and we're getting in spring where we're going to start going outside, guys that have perfect attendance, we'd have a spaghetti feed. Mr. Barton, our shop teacher, was unbelievably involved with everybody in athletics and the campus. And he would whip that up for us, and we'd eat next door to the weight room. It was freaking great, man. And then another way we ate was in August, right before training camp was going to start, we had a mini camp, which was a series of 3 night practices, and this marked the culmination of the summer program. And the third night, the last night, we would ask our guys to pair up with a teammate. They would line up. Art Plunkett, who always ran all this stuff, was over with the pizzas. He ordered them, took care of them stuff. Another thing the head coach didn't have to do, so I was very appreciative. And then it'd be cool because I'd be the guy that would send the 2 guys over to pick up their pizza, right? Half a large pizza for each. But again, there'd be 4 seconds of interaction while they wait, and I'd say, man, you guys did a good job in this camp. Okay, go ahead and go. Next group up. Man, I'm so excited to watch you play this year. Okay, your guys' turn, go. And again, I think that stuff's valuable. There's eye contact involved. So do it. And let me explain why, what I was taught as a coach, why we have players to our house. And it is cool for them to see you away from school in a different environment, and vice versa for you to see them that way too. It helps strengthen the bond. But in our society, our kids are raised, they're in all different types of homes, and sometimes those homes don't have a father in it or a male figure. So one of the things I was told was when we have these young men over to our house and we're doing what we normally do as coaches and husbands and men, but these young people may not never see how a man treats his wife or how a man treats his children and how a man acts in the house. And that we were role modeling that amongst all the other benefits from being around our players in this setting, I think is huge. So don't lose sight of that, fellas, because it's part of the deal, man. Now I'm going to move on to another program. There's a program here in Las Vegas called Canyon Springs High School in North Las Vegas. The current coach there is a really good young coach named Quincy Burts. The guy that started the program and got it cranked up is a man named Hunkie Cooper. Legendary Arena Football League player. Hunkie was the head coach at Canyon Springs from 2009 to 14. He currently is the director of football player development and community engagement at UNLV. And Hunkie, and I talked to him about it here a month ago, started a deal, I call it the Run for Life. They didn't have a name for it at Canyon Springs. It's what they did on the first day of camp. That was the first practice, if you would. But it was far from your common football practice. So, first of all, it was 8.6 miles, which I was like, man, you're tough in this heat. But really helped the kids and it bonded the kids. And Hunkie and the coaches like Gus McNair and Quincy since can look in the mirror and say, we're teaching these young men about life. So they would start at Canyon Springs. They got their water, they got their packs, they got everything. It's going to be a good long day. And they would take off running on a pre-designed route by Coach Cooper, and they would stop first down the road at the Shade Tree Shelter. That's a shelter here in Las Vegas that provides shelter and resources to homeless and abused women and women with children in crisis. It's a very important residence in this town. And they would stop, and Hunkie would talk to the young man like, and it's a loaded question, right? So how many of y'all have a mom or a sister? Well, right, we all have a mom at least. So the hands would go up, and then he'd say, well, how many of you would let a man put his hands on your mom or sister in a violent manner? And none of them would raise their hand because you're going to defend them. And then he would spin it and say, then, well, how many of you then in your lifetime are going to put your hands on a woman in a violent manner? And of course, they're all hands are down. And then they would have a resident come out and talk to them about how their life had been impacted by violence negatively. And I thought that's really powerful. So that wrapped up, they'd head on down and they'd take off jogging again. And then they'd end up at the North Las Vegas homeless mission along this route of 4.3 miles out. And Hunkie knows everybody, still knows everybody in this community. And they would stop at this mission. And Hunkie had a former player who lived there who had made some bad decisions, right? We talk about to our kids and our players and our athletes making good decisions or bad decisions. And this young man, unfortunately, had made some bad ones, and he owned up to them and was trying to fix it. But he lived there. And he would come out and he would talk to the players about why he was living there. And I'm like, that's powerful, okay? So when he was done, then they would head out to go finish the 4.3 miles out, and they would finish at a cemetery in North Las Vegas. And Hunkie would gather them, or Coach Burts does it now, around a headstone that they know where it was. And unfortunately, it was a student who had been at Canyon Springs High School, and some decisions were made, and unfortunately it resulted in a loss of life. And they would talk about your decisions in your life, in every day, and how they matter, and the people you should listen to and the people you should not listen to. And then they'd strap up and they'd run back to campus, 4.3 miles. And a side benefit of this incredible teaching, in my opinion, Hunkie would say, then you'd see the guys that were going to help the dudes that were struggling, that were going to share the water, carry the extra water, and help people to get back and finish this first practice, if you would. So you talk about a powerful way to start your season. And again, the incredible amount of teaching that they did on this day, I'm just amazed by it, and what an incredible idea. This is back to an idea from Las Vegas High School that we stole called You Can Count on Me. My friend Bobby Petrino was coaching at the University of Nevada for Chris Ault at one time, and I went up and visited him right when I was going to Las Vegas High School. It was right at the end of spring ball. It was their spring game, per se, or their spring scrimmage. And then I was, like I think you do when you're a coach and you get to make a visit, I was nosing around everywhere. And I nosed into the weight room, and I saw these boards up, right, these big poster boards. And at the top it said, "You can count on me," in big letters. And then I saw a bunch of names down the side, and then I saw these dates at the top, and it was all squared and ruled out. And there was 4 of them, okay, to signify for each class. And we went on to Las Vegas High School, and we copied this verbatim. And again, as we talked last time, get rid of gray area, man. Things are black and white. So these were attendance boards. So you're either there or you're not. There ain't really anything in between. And that'll make the head coach's job a lot easier. So we would do summer workouts. And again, we stole this from Coach Ault. So we'd do our summer workouts, and it'd be a good long, morning. And then when they were done, the weight room was picked up, and the players, man, they're sweaty, and it's been a good workout. And they would line up by class. We'd say, all right, line up. So, freshmen, although they were separate usually, sophomores, juniors, seniors, and myself and some of our coaches, or I might not even done it one day, but we'd take turns getting in front of each board for the class, and the kids would make a line. And so, right, when you take roll, or when you got to identify if somebody's present, you got to look them in the eye. Okay, who's in line? I look you in the eye. And then I would take a dot, right, because there's John Smith at the front of the line, and I'd come over, because he's a junior, I'm from the junior board, bam, he's there on that date. And again, as coaches, man, because we're habitual praisers, or we should be, or motivators, as we should be, and I just say something like, hey, man, great job today, bam. And he steps out, right? There's a 2-second interaction, but it's powerful, okay? Next guy, you really gotten better this summer, bam. George, I'm really proud of what you're doing, bam, right? And that stuff resonates with them, because we don't get that when we're running the whole group. So that little deal for attendance is good. And then my principal, right, going back to Barry Gunderson, and I'd recommend you coaches do this too. Like if I ever got a note or a letter that was in praise of something, right, because sometimes we let parent complaints and the negative stuff just pound us into the ground. Well, I always kept a notebook of any time I got a letter or a note from whoever, and it had praise to it, because there may be times in the course of a season you need to get that frickin' book out and pump yourself up, right? We all been there when things aren't going your way. So I have a letter from Mr. Gunderson, who walked by our gear checkout line one night. So summer camp's over, we're getting ready to start fall camp, training camp in August, and we're going to check out gear. Well, I worked in a program where like the best players came and got the best gear, and then it kind of went down, and it was pretty arbitrary, you know what I'm saying? And I didn't like it. I thought it was kind of lame. So we checked the gear out based on your attendance. So we added up all your attendance from the summer. We added up the 3 nights of mini camp, and then we added up any spring ball that we had done after all spring sports were done, so you could be there. And then bam, and we put it in a database, sorted it, highest to lowest, and posted it. And that was the order we checked gear out in. I didn't care what grade you ran. The freshmen were a different deal, but 10th, 11th, and 12th, they were all in the same boat, man. And so we went on. What was your commitment level to us in the summer would predicate on your choice of how high a good gear you get, right? What does it say on the top of the boards? You can count on me. So again, I'd rather you demonstrate that than tell me. That's what that board was about. I thought that was a really good idea that we stole. I'm not talking about our idea. We stole. My good friend was the head coach at Douglas High School in Minden, Nevada. His name's Ernie Monfiletto. He's still my good friend. I just saw him last weekend. And his personality, he did something different. It doesn't fit my personality. What he did I thought was really cool, and it was called Football Follies. And again, I apologize. I've got slides for this stuff, but technically I probably ain't going to be able to get them on here because I'm not very good yet. You can survive that. But at the end to mark the end of training camp, before then they switched to an in-season schedule, they would get together and they'd go to the head coach's house, right? Again, sharing a meal. And Ernie's a hell of a cook, so I would have loved to have had some of that. And then the team would perform skits that would roast their coaches. And again, he had a rule, the coach had to be present to be roasted, and I agree with him, it was an honor to be roasted, right? That's one of my memories from UNLV was being roasted by Shane Steichen, the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts, every year in our Ely, Nevada training camp skits. I'm good with it, man. I was there. I was laughing. I was in tears. In these skits, he has a rule, it's nothing ever said about wives, mothers, or girlfriends. And then he has a picture, I have it, where all the cell phones for all the players are in a big box and they're away because you don't need that. That's private. Just like when people shoot locker room video, a victorious locker room, and the head coach is saying something in the passion of victory, and he'd never say it in public, and then people put it out online. You can't allow that. So they took the phones away, and they had a great time. and they had fun and they laughed. They'd been through training camp together, getting ready to go through the battle of the regular season. I think it was a great idea, and it certainly fit Ernie's personality to a T. And he was there for, God, 25 years, 10 years as a head coach. What a cool way. Again, it's neat when you mark the end of segments of your football journey and the start of the new one. And Ernie marked the end of camp with Football Follies. I think a cool idea. Perhaps it'll work for you. At Vegas High, and I've talked about this before, but I'm going to do it again. We ended up becoming big on what we called the finisher shirt. I shared before, I was alarmed my first year as a head coach. We would take a picture for the yearbook in August, and then by the time we're in the playoffs in late November, there's like 8 guys missing. Guys have quit, fallen out, whatever reason. And so I would always put a picture up in the weight room of the team. Well, I didn't want that one up, but then I had to put dots over guys' face who weren't there anymore. I don't like that. I think that's kind of lame. So we got where we would reshoot the team picture the first week of the playoffs or the end of the regular season, just for us. And then the photography teacher would blow it up and we'd put it on the wall. Guys, I think it's really important now, and more than ever, young men and women in high school have more choices of what they can do and various activities and anything else than they've probably ever had before. So for me, if a young person commits from the first day of training camp and is on the field at the last day of your season, that's to be honored and recognized. I don't care. Not everybody goes to college and plays football, okay? What's going to make your program is those committed kids that you're getting everything from that aren't going to college. Because if you got a bunch of them that are all in, you'll be successful. So to me, they should be recognized, because that's a great job of making a commitment and finishing. So at our banquet, we would give out, the coolest thing we gave out was a big red shirt. We were red and black with black letters in it. On back it said finisher, big letters. And Las Vegas High School football on the front. And that became a theme. And again, we wanted to recognize those kids because they had made the commitment. That's not easy to go through a whole football season and satisfy all the requirements. And I never got a letter jacket in high school. I just wasn't interested in that stuff. So I wasn't into all that. Some guys were, and that's cool. There's different things for different people. But I know I saw a lot of these shirts around our campus and in the weight room because it was a tangible deal that they could use. And then you can talk about being a finisher to everything, right? They're off to a good start academically. Are they going to be able to finish? They're going to run the 40-yard dash. Are they going to run 39 and pull up? Are they going to run 41 and pull up? The workout's calling for sets of 8 on the squats. Are they going to be able to labor through the last set and get to 8? Or are they going to pull up when it gets a little hard at 7? You see what I'm saying? So the significance of being a finisher, I think, is really important. And this was how we did it. Plus, I hate banquets, but that made the banquet fun to me, because that was a big part of it, was giving those out. And again, recognizing young people with a million choices to commit to playing football all season for their teammates. This one, because I don't have the video again, but you can go to Football Scoop and see it. It was a phenomenal idea. Doug Samuels, right? He's the Football Scoop director of content. You know Football Scoop, right? The website that reports on coaching moves that every coach in the country looks at, and most coaches will say they never look at it. That site. And it's awesome. I'll admit it. I love it. I still look at it, and I'm retired. And the head coach there is Doug Samuels. He's the Football Scoop director of content. He's the head coach at Comstock Park High School in Michigan. And he posted, like in November, their last regular season walkthrough. They invited the dads. They called it Scout Team Dads, or / important men, right, in the life of their players. And they had those guys come out and, right, going to hold up a card. So that got these dads involved, man. I mean, and how cool. And the video, you can find it online. It's hilarious, right? There's a dad coming out of the backfield in what looks like cowboy boots and jeans and a flannel shirt, right? And a walkthrough. Right? He's going just a little faster than the dudes on defense are because he's all fired up, right? and he catches a wheel route down the sideline. It's awesome. And then, and I've communicated with Doug about this, and he's like, man, he goes, these dads love that until they got up the next day and they're sore as hell from that little bit of moving around they were doing. But what a cool thing for them and their sons or the significant males that they're looking after can share later on, man. What a great idea to get out of the combativeness with parents and to do something like that. Scout team dads, look it up. We stole, again, from Ed Fisher, South Kitsap High School, Port Orchard, Washington, up by Bremerton, the Buddy Program. We called it the Cat Buddy Program. We were the Wildcats. And what I always felt here was in Vegas, there was no tradition. There's just, it's a transient town. Now it's a real big town, but it's a phenomenal town. That's why I live here. But there wasn't a lot of tradition. And so I grew up in February, Washington, and I grew up like a lot of you guys where I looked up to the athletes in the high school. My sister was 4 years older than me, so I knew who some of those guys were. But like twice during the Federal Way High School basketball season when I was an elementary kid, we got to go up on Saturday morning and they'd have a clinic for us, like once in December and once in February. I mean, I could still name off like 5 of those guys that played on that basketball team that taught us. And so it made you look forward to going to high school, right? That's kind of what it was about. So I wanted to develop that when we were at Las Vegas High School. And I have a great friend, and he was a great coach named Art Plunkett was on our staff. And we laid out how we wanted to do this program, and then he took it. I didn't do anything except come out and say hi to the kids. Art did everything. And right, as a coach, you got to find the guys you can delegate who and who will take what and run with it. And so the Cat Buddy program is a program for the elementary students from your feeder schools. They pay a small fee. It was really nominal. And we lived in an area where part of our area wasn't very wealthy, but the kids could afford it. And I'm proud to say there's an article that you can Google on the Las Vegas Sun by Ray Brewer that at the height of our existence when we were doing this at Vegas High, there was 100 cat buddies in the program, which was huge. So they would sign up for the small fee, and then Art would get them a cat buddy jersey, you know, a black mesh, old school mesh jersey with red lettering that says Las Vegas Wildcats and all that. And then one time during the season in October, we would have, after our Saturday morning activities were over, Art had a clinic organized with food, with stations, and they were coached by our kids, and he directed our players to coach these young kids. And the interaction between elementary kids and these high school kids they look up to is big time. There's no price that you could put on that. So that Saturday clinic was a huge thing. And again, then they shared food. The cool thing was, right, so maybe you're struggling to get more people at your game. Well, this is a good way to get people at your game because the Cat Buddy kids got in for free, right? But their parents had to pay. And the Cat Buddy kids would bug their parents to bring them to our games on Friday night. So much so that Art had to designate a special section of our bleachers for the Cat Buddies and their parents. So we got, and the cool thing was you could see it from the sideline camera on top of the press box. And I just used to laugh because like the kids are running around the bleachers, they're going down the stairs, and they couldn't care less about the game, but they were at the game and they were having fun. And then the cool part is the Cat Buddies at halftime knew that they went over to the fence and they made the tunnel for our players coming back in for the second half. That was part of their job that Coach Plunkett had educated them on. And so the tie-in there was phenomenal. And then Art had it so detailed. On Wednesday during the season at our school, we would practice at night for various reasons, but one of them being, all right, you coaches that get sick, I got to go to the dentist and all that. That's great. You go to the dentist. You freaking go on Wednesday after school, okay? And then we're not going to have any problems. But then Art would have a handful of our players get their jerseys and go out to our 3 feeder elementary schools and they would go into the classrooms, and the teachers would have them read to the kids. They would go to recess with the kids if it hit then, and those teachers came to know us and know our kids, and it was an amazing program. And again, Coach Plunkett did an amazing job with it. And I ran into this year, I'm at a UNLV game, I'm 4 years retired. I ran into a kid who came up to me and said, hey man, he's not a kid, he's an adult now. Hey, I played at Las Vegas High School. I'm looking, I go, and like you guys always have to do, right? Hey, I'm sorry, tell me your name again. He's like, oh no. He goes, I didn't play for you. I was after you left there. I go, oh, he goes, but I was a cat buddy. And I'm like, yes, that's exactly what we wanted to hear. That was really cool. So that program and getting your elementary kids going, I think is pretty cool. Faith Lutheran High School here, right? My friend Mike Sanford just retired, and I worked for him at UNLV. He's a longtime college football coach and very well known, very good. And he has a young coach on his staff named Chris Hollermeier. They call him Wood for Hollywood. And he played for us at UNLV, and I've been asking him about this, and I finally got to talk to him about it. They have a program called the Mark 1014 program, but what they've done at Faith Lutheran is they have gotten the special needs kids, they've gotten their players involved with the special needs students at that high school. And that's the goal, right, is to get your players around some of the special needs kids. It's always a good dose of reality and a good dose of appreciation for where we may stand. And the level of involvement, right, can be anywhere from walking the special needs kids to class, right? It's just part of the schedule, and they would rotate. Again, this is something you delegate, just like Wood does it there. And all the way up to, at Faith, they integrated the special needs students into the football program. And probably my biggest regret, and from my 9 years at Las Vegas High School, because I knew that there was something we could do, and I didn't do it. And that's a mistake by me. That's not good. Because again, like, okay, so period one, our player Joe walks the special needs kid to their class, and then we tell his first period teacher that he's going to be a little bit late. I don't think the teacher would have a problem with that. So I think it's a really good idea, because we know our players are looked up to by the entire student body. And so they need to understand and act with humility, and then take advantage of that and help people. So that Mark 1014 program, you can look it up online. You can go to Faith Lutheran High School. It's a great idea. We were fortunate here recently at the Las Vegas Coach of the Year Clinic. We had Ray Gates here. He's the head football coach at North Crowley High School in Fort Worth, Texas. He just finished in the 24 season a 16-0 record, the Texas 6A state champions. And they were a buzzsaw, and after listening to him talk, you could see why he was tremendous here at our clinic. And they do a deal called boot camp, right? Boot camp, you may know, went back to Coach Joey McGuire, who was at Cedar Hill High School. Coach Gates worked there at one time. And Coach McGuire, when you go back and study it, took the idea from Rowlett High School head coach in Texas, Kiff Harden. And boot camp consists of, fundamentally, it's a series of strenuous off-season workouts that demand discipline, toughness, and a hunger to fight the urge to quit when the going gets difficult. Coach Gates told me on the phone back in December, and said it to our attendees at our clinic. He goes, our players need to go through adversity before we get to Friday nights in September. And I thought it's a very good idea. And again, it's a unique deal, man, because, you know, and we do want to be unique and we want to have fun, but we know that it's going to be hard to be great. But that's what makes football so good. And they do boot camp, and it's demanding. And some schools probably wouldn't tolerate having it, the administration, but there's various ways to do it. But again, it's having a high standard, and not everybody can get there, and that's what young kids like. Then it makes it special to play in your program. And that's what you want, right? That's the only thing you want. I'm going to skip that one. So this is episode 2. of the Sun Coaches West podcast. I'd appreciate if you spread the word. And as always, man, enjoy the journey. If you ever need to hit me, man, my email is really easy. It's Coach Sink, C-I-N-K, the first four letters of my last name, coachsink@gmail.com. And if I could share anything with you, I'd be happy to. I appreciate you giving me the time to talk about this today. I have a passion for this stuff. You must too, or you wouldn't be listening to this. Appreciate you, man. Go get them. Have fun. Enjoy the journey.